Now, the fact that the Omicron variant is now being talked about means that the conspiracy theories were never going to be far off, and they're already here, and they are pathetic. So, Trilby Smith said, Omicron, new C19 variant, check it. It's an anagram for moronic. Oh dear, that is true. Moronic definition, adjective, very foolish or stupid. I love that the conspiracy theorists felt the need to define moronic in their tweet. They are just making fun of people now. Please wake up and quit being the butt of the joke. We are waiting to progress forward. And then there's a gif of wakey wakey. That's not why they named it that. That's stupid. Like, they love this stuff. Man, like, they should really just get into numerology because it's at least more compelling, the difficulty you need to do in getting the 6 and adding in the 19 if you divide by how many years the WHO has been around. Omicron is a Greek letter. It's been around for thousands of years. It's not new. We already had Delta. Was that not an indication that we might progress through the Greek alphabet? But no, they find it very convincing. And, by the way, Trilby Smith was not the only person to come up with this. Lynn's Pieces says, just realized, the Omicron variant is an anagram of moronic. It's also very timely. Right before Christmas, here comes a new variant. Great for lockdowns, and just in time for the media to start bleeding on constantly about getting the booster while blaming the unvaccinated. Well, you know one way that you could avoid the bleeding? Just get it. Just shut up and get it. It'll take you 5 minutes. You can get a bag of candy. But here is the place where it gets a little bit more fun. So these absolute randos on Twitter are getting hundreds of retweets from their, like, oh, of course it's going to come. They need it now. But there has never been less of a gap between randos on Twitter and people who get paid millions to spread this stuff on the House floor, on Fox News, on independent right-wing media. And I want to demonstrate that for you now. Take a look at this video from Fox and Friends.
Pete Buttigieg, our transportation secretary, is potentially our new president in 2024, or so the Democrats want, has said we can't fix the supply chain problem until the pandemic is over, until COVID is over. And now we see these new variants. So that's the answer, is more lockdowns, more fear. And therefore, he doesn't have to do his job of fixing the supply chain because we'll just keep this whole thing going.
It's always a new variant.
And you'll count on a variant about every October, every 2 years.
Oh, I think it's going to, yep. You're probably right.
I mean, however...
They could speed up. The variants could come more quickly. And
we're going to need a new variant here.
My gosh.
It's not great. It's going to come more quickly. Can I get a variant? I'm not really qualified for this. Anyway, they get paid millions to do that. So the joke's on us. They get paid more than all of us collectively to convince people to not take this seriously. So, yes, you're going to get a new variant every October. Why did he say that? Because his mind is mush. It's moldy oatmeal, and he remembers that things got really bad last year. In October into November, December, and all of that, we had the dark winter. We had that likely because of the onset of cold weather and people being huddled together, as well as the holidays and a lot of travel. We didn't have it because of a new variant. The new variant came after that, but he has no idea. Again, moldy oatmeal. What he is probably worried about is that things could get bad again. And he knows that things could get bad again because he knows that COVID isn't a hoax, that it is real. They know all of this, these rich, vaccinated people on Fox and Friends, but they do have to, again, keep their audience comfortable. And their audience has been told to not take this seriously, to not actually worry about it. So they're going to stick with that. So they would say, if you were to ask them, so are you against all of this stuff? Like, you seem like you're pro-COVID. They would say, no, I'm not pro-COVID. I'm just against the mandates. What part of any of this has to do with the mandates? Literally just spending time on your morning show for an audience of millions of people telling them they make up the variants. They don't make up the variants. The variants exist. And by the way, how is it happening? How are these variants developing? In countries around the world, lots of people are still highly sick with huge case counts of COVID in countries that have very low vaccination rates because they don't have access to the vaccine or they don't have nearly enough of it. And so mutations develop and then spread. And I will ask you, What did we say was going to happen? If we continue to stay sick, if we don't help other countries, if we allow them to continue to have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of cases a day over months and months, what did we say was going to happen? But they say no, don't worry about it. We don't want the vaccine, but we definitely don't want anyone else to get it. What did we say would happen? Over and over and over again, they deny and they lie, and then things get bad again, and then they don't care about that either. We said that the winter was going to be dark last year, and they said don't worry about it, continue to travel, don't let it affect your behavior in any way. And then things got really bad. Did they care? Did they apologize? Did they integrate that into their learning? No, they haven't learned literally anything, or at least they want to convince you that they haven't. And what is their plan? I'm going to go to one more video for you. More amazing lying. Here is Anthony Mace, Republican Congresswoman.
In some studies that I've read, natural immunity gives you 27 times more protection against future COVID infection than a vaccination. And so we need to take all of the science into account and not selectively choosing what science to follow when we are making policy decisions.
That was Nancy Mace saying, well, I saw some study that said that just getting sick was 27 times better than the vaccine, which stops you from getting sick, so we need not be selective with our science. Where? What study? What study? What study says that getting COVID is 27 times better for antibodies than the vaccine? It doesn't exist, and she's not providing it. But there's another important point that she's sort of glossing over there, which is not just about whether she has the study. Okay, you can get the vaccine, or you can have the natural immunity, which isn't immunity. What's the major difference between those two things? Getting vaccinated and getting natural immunity. One requires you to get COVID. So, if you're worried about getting COVID, I've got a plan for you. Get COVID, and then maybe you'll be a little bit protected against getting COVID. That's a crazy thing for an individual person to say, but when you come on Fox News and then they say, as they did in that interview, it's amazing how successful your state has been in generating natural immunity, that just means more people are getting COVID. This is the herd immunity thing. I understand they're using different terminology. It's the same thing. Just let people get COVID. Just let it run rampant. Never mind the fact that, of course, if you're vaccinated and you get it, you're much more likely to be asymptomatic, and if you have symptoms, to have a much lighter case, to not experience long COVID to the same degree, to not have to go to a hospital. No, their plan is just get it. We've been saying for a year and a half they're pro-COVID, and we're the crazies for saying that. Their plan is, if you're worried about COVID, go get COVID. But I'm crazy. I'm crazy. By the way, there's other Nancy Mace's out there. Ronny Jackson says, here comes the MEV, the midterm election variant. They need a reason to push unsolicited nationwide mail-in ballots. Democrats will do anything to cheat during an election, but we're not going to let them. Yep, we came up with Omicron in Botswana a year before the election so that we could have mail-in ballots. That's how it works. What are you talking about? The Democrats can't even pass one of their voting rights bills. Like, they literally are doing nothing. The entire national conversation, legislatively, in terms of this, has been generated by right-wing Republicans infringing on people's right to vote. That's it. But the Democrats will stop at nothing to lie. Michael Knowles, who's one of the Ben Shapiro clones, he had said, spoiler alert, there's always going to be another variant. And Ted Cruz quote retweeted that with, true that. Which, first of all, ugh. Second of all, that is a senator saying there's always going to be another variant. So don't worry. Why are you taking this seriously? They make it up. It's convenient. Botswana generated a new variant because the Democrats need it at some point. God, Ted Cruz. Stephen Miller, found out about Omicron and went on the news and said, if Trump were president, we would already have modified vaccines for the new Omicron variants. First of all, how? Second of all, we don't even know if it needs to be modified yet. The vaccines we have might be fine. And third of all, I got news for you, Stephen Miller. If Trump were still president and you had the new variants for Omicron in the vaccine, you'd be telling people not to take it. Because that's all you people have done this entire time. You wouldn't be going on Fox News to tell them to take the new variant. You sure wouldn't be doing that, because they'd consider you a commie if you did that.